So our layout doesn't look good on some screens. Great. That's a hard part about programming for Android, but it's an exciting challenge, and I know you're up to it. Our layout is currently based on a relative layout. The relative layout takes up the entire width and height of the screen, and using it like this means that everything on the screen is positioned relative to the edges of the relative layout, or the screen edges in this case. Views in the relative layout are also positioned relative to each other. There are other kinds of layout containers, or view groups like this too. They're called view groups because they're special types of views that can hold groups of other views inside them. Another commonly used type is called linear layout, which allows us to arrange child views in either a horizontal or vertical linear fashion. Our text view that shows our answer is currently placed in the center of the relative layout, but because of some restrictions with the relative layout, we can't explicitly control how wide it should be. So instead, we're going to wrap a text view inside a linear layout, which gives us greater control over exactly how wide we want it. This may seem overly complex for what we're trying to accomplish, but this will allow our app to look good on all sorts of phones and tablets with different screen sizes. Alright, let's get to it. Let's start by expanding the Layouts section in the palette. Grab a horizontal linear layout, make sure to get the right one, and drag it into the upper left corner of our screen. Make sure you get green bars on the left and top sides of the layout. If we put it somewhere else, we might end up with some margins that we need to remove. Next, click on the Fill Width button, and then the Center Vertical button. Now it may look like it disappears, but just select Linear Layout over here in the outline to make it show up. Now, in the outline, drag Text View 1 into the linear layout like this. Now it's established as a child of the linear layout, which is what we need. But it looks funny down here. That's because it had some margins from before that we no longer need. Expand margins down here in the Properties view for Text View 1, and then clear the top and left margins. Okay, that's a little better. Now, it would be nice if we could just set a percentage width for the text view and be done, but we can't exactly do that. Now, we can work with these kinds of percentages by assigning weight to elements inside of a linear layout. We need to first define what the total weight for the layout is. We'll use 1, and then we assign weights to the child elements inside the layout so that they add up to that total. Let's start by finding the weight sum property of our linear layout. Make sure the linear layout is selected in the outline, and then find the weight sum property in the linear layout section of the Properties view. Enter 1 for the weight sum, hit enter, and now we'll be able to enter percentages as decimals for the child elements within this linear layout. Select the text view in the outline, and then find the weight property, which is under Layout Parameters. Enter 0.6 and hit enter. We want this text view to take up 60% of the horizontal space in the linear layout. We also need to set the width of the element to 0 because the width setting can interfere with the weight. If I right-click on it and I go to Layout Width, you can see that we have it set to wrap content. Instead, select Other, and then type in 0dp. dp stands for Density Independent Pixels. This is very similar to the SP units we've been using for text. For text, we always use SP units, and for most other things, we want to use DP units to specify their size. The Android developer documentation does a good job of explaining this. Because there are different screen sizes built with different pixel densities, a given image can look larger or smaller on different devices, which is shown here in this top row. Density-independent pixels are managed by Android, so that if you specify the size of an image using them, then Android will automatically scale appropriately without any other work on your part. The bottom row shows how the image will look like it's the same size on different screen because we're using DP units to specify its size. Click OK, and now our text view is 60% of the width of the screen. But it's not centered. That's because the linear layout is filled starting from the left, and we should have elements that are all weighted such that they add up to the weight sum value we set for this linear layout. The solution is to add a clear blank view on each side of the text view. We'll set the weight of each view to 0.2, which will then add up to the weight sum of 1. In the palette, in the Advanced section, we're going to use views as placeholders to fill the left and right sides of the text view. A view is a base class for the text view, button, and image view we've been using, and by itself, a view just fills up a rectangle on the screen. We can do a lot with views regarding what they show and how the user can interact with them, but we'll just use clear ones that don't do anything. Grab a view and drag it into our linear layout. The orange border shows the linear layout, and the dotted line that you can barely see here to the left of our text shows where it will be inserted. In the properties, the width is already set to 0dp for us. Right-click on the view, select Layout Height, then Other, and change the height to 0dp as well. There's a quirk in the Properties editor where we can't specify a dp setting like this. Now change the weight to 0.2. And we can't really see anything here in the preview, but if we hover over, you can see here's the linear layout. Here's our text view now centered. The view is over here, although you can't select it directly because it's got a height and width of 0dp. Let's finish off our layout by copying this view and then pasting it on the other side of our text view. If I right-click on linear layout and paste it as a child, I can then rearrange it by dragging it here in the outline. Make sure it's lined up under text view 1 at the same indent level as the rest of the views. And just for consistency, let's change its ID to view 2 so that it matches the format that was automatically created for view 1. Cool. All right. Now our layout is filled, our text is centered, and it fits inside the crystal ball. If we try some of the different screen previews, we can see that the text will now fit on the ball, even on the smallest of screen sizes. Let's save our changes, and feel free to run the emulator if you want, but I think you're ready for another code challenge.